Oh,
Hey,
welcome to our new patron.
I was just about to. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, back up. Welcome to episode 33.
Yeah, that.
I'm Katie,
I'm
and
April.
that's April, and we're sisters. And if you haven't figured out by now, this is a podcast about paranormal and true crime stories, and we're covering Utah-based stories. So there's that. Our new patron. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Carrie, welcome.
Yes, welcome. I I was shocked when I woke up to see that we had a new patron.
I
You guys
know
have to know that, like, if you become a patron, like, you will make our week or our month or the year, honestly.
it does feel a little bit more like validating. Like, not that we
Right.
need it necessarily, but it does feel nice to have like people dedicated to our what we're doing. Like
Yeah.
it's different, but it's nice.
It's like rewarding in a way. It's like, okay, so we are doing a good job, you know?
Yeah, it's like,
Like
oh, we
we
don't
should keep
completely
going.
suck. Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
we shouldn't give up.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was really cool because I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is happening?" Because I was
Yeah.
literally like thinking about it the night before. I was like, "What? Why? How are we not getting any Patreon, people?" And then like literally the next day, I was like, "What?"
I
I
know.
manifested it or
You
something.
did. You must have. Well, that was really exciting. So I think that just might be a new perk. Every time someone signs up for Patreon, we might just announce and say thank you and give you a shout out on the podcast. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Um,
April,
uh,
how are you?
Fidgety. Good. So our family does pumpkin or we do taste offs
Oh,
every so
yeah.
often. So we like pick a theme, pick a day, and then we like make something and bring it, and then we all vote on who had the best
Yep.
appearance, taste, texture, and then overall winner.
What did
And
you make?
so this time we did pumpkin flavored things.
Mm-hmm.
And I made pumpkin spice twist things. I don't know. I don't know how to
Yeah,
explain
they're
it.
like they're like the breadsticks you get from, like, I don't know, Domino's or something, but it looks
Yeah.
like it had pumpkin in it. Is that
It
right?
had like like the pumpkin puree mixed with like maple syrup,
Ooh.
brown sugar, pumpkin spice, and then you like
Mm.
twist it and then you butter it and then sprinkle the cinnamon sugar over the top of it and bake it.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Really?
Like, as everything I do, I procrastinated until yesterday to figure out what I wanted to make.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and like I did my freaking notes for this episode yesterday too. So, um
So this weekend has been a little bit stressful.
yeah, I that's just how I live my life. I think I
Right.
thrive in panic. But, but
Yeah.
anyway, so
Yeah.
um yeah, they had turned out really good. I didn't win. Our
Oh, who
mom
won?
won.
Oh.
Mom won. She did a pumpkin poke cake, the better than sex cake,
Oh yeah.
but she did it with like a spice cake and then put pumpkin puree in it
Oh.
and then
And what
did caramel.
caramel?
Yeah, oh, it
Mm,
was so good.
that sounds good.
It really
Did
was so
she
good.
did she serve it warm?
No, I think it
Mm,
cooled off by the time, but I love the poke cakes. They're so flippin' good.
yeah. Is that the cake where she used to make like the spice cake and then put like the hot chocolate pudding over the top?
No, it was different. Well, I mean, that's just like a
Or is
I
that a
think
different
that
one?
I think that's a different one. So like the
Oh.
better than sex cake or poke cakes, they're kind of the same thing. Is like it's like a cake, right? Just normal cake, and then you poke holes in it, and then you put a filling in there. So mom usually does caramel,
Mm,
and then she puts the whipped cream as the icing, so it's lighter and less
mm,
like heavy. And
yeah.
then she usually puts Snickers, like broken up Snickers over the top of the whipped cream and then more caramel.
Okay.
but this time she did it the pumpkin version that she just kind of made it up. Oh,
Yeah.
it was so good. I really, really liked it. But
Dang.
she won. Steve did. I don't even know what the word is called. It was like a pastry, like a bready pastry, pumpkin
Yeah.
spice. It didn't have pumpkin puree, but it had the pumpkin spice.
Mm-hmm.
And that was good. And then Josh, Katie wasn't able to go.
No.
But
No, we'll get there
but
in a sec.
Josh did um our brother. He did
Hmm.
like it was like a pumpkin pie, but less pumpkiny
Hmm.
and like more whipped cream than
Like a
pumpkin pie.
mousse, like a pumpkin mousse.
Kinda, yeah. It was
Huh.
good. It was
Hmm.
really good.
Yeah.
But
I saw the pictures and I'm like, oh man. And you know what? Okay, so guys, I wasn't able to go. Do you want to know what I was gonna bring?
yeah.
I wasn't gonna wing. Now knowing what was there, I feel a little bit better. But I was gonna bring sugar-free hot chocolate with sugar-free like pumpkin spice in it.
Oh,
Yeah, and like top it with just whipped cream with like, you know,
like
cinnamon and
pumpkin
nutmeg.
spice over it
Yeah,
or something.
just
Yeah.
something to make it look pretty. That's what I was gonna do because it was easy, and I was like,
Yeah.
eh. But I wasn't able to go because the freaking van, you guys, the freaking van, the van. I'm gonna throw it away eventually.
Throw it in the
But
garbage.
yeah, I feel like I put too much money into it though, that I'm like, when do we stop putting money into it? You know, like at what point? Because
Yeah.
like I feel like we've invested at this, you know, like in the last month, like we spent so much money on this stupid thing. But
That's yeah.
it started leaking transmission oil. But like I'm glad that you called early, like because I put in the family group text, I'm like, I'm not going. I hate my van. But anyway, so April called me and told me that her husband, Josh, because we have two Joshes in the family. But anyway,
Yeah, that's a whole thing.
yeah, if we haven't already talked about that. But April was like, it's actually not that big of a deal as long as it's just a slow leak. So we just put some of that like sealer stuff in there,
Hmm.
and then we put more transmission fluid in. But now we have another problem is that Mitch forgot to put the cap back on, and I went driving because it says, oh, you should drive on it like 10 to between 10 and 100 miles to know if it worked. So I'm like, oh, I'll just go drive around a little bit, like go to Walgreens and whatever. And then I get back and he's like, hey, problem. I forgot to put the cap back on. So can you retrace your steps and see if you can find the cap? So there's no cap to our transmission line right now. And I feel like that's a big problem.
Uh, it might just get dirty. So what I would do, and this is my,
I, I was going to wrap a rag around it.
I was gonna say cling wrap with a rubber band around it, so
Do you
it's
think
like
it'd
sealed.
melt? That's what Mitch
If
said
well,
too.
if
Something
you
like that.
drive or if you drive, maybe probably not in the cold, but that way it's sealed and it won't get dirt and shit in there. And then you
Yeah.
can go get a replacement cap or have one delivered to you. I bet you can get one on
Oh,
Amazon.
I hope so. I hope so. Because I hope that's not like what kills our transmission
I would
is
just
we
try
didn't put
to
the cap back on.
I would just try to keep dirt out of it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Mitch,
Right.
what the hell?
Right.
Get it together.
Anyway, so I didn't get to the taste off. But it sounded like it was a good time. So that's good.
It was good. We spent a lot of time talking about serial killers. Mom didn't know that John Wayne Gacy was a clown.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
I guess if you don't follow
Well, she's
true
like, I knew
crime,
he was a serial, like I knew the name, but I didn't know he was a clown. I
yeah.
was like, yeah, Mom, that's terrifying. But then we talked about a lot of true crime stuff, so it was entertaining.
Did any of them happen to mention if they listen to
No,
our
none
true
of
crime podcast?
none of them listen, I guarantee it.
Well, cool.
Okay. Okay.
All
Let
right.
me get this out of here. Okay. Um, this story. Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna start it.
Okay.
I'm not gonna tell you anything else. Just the story.
Okay. That sounds like a really, really good plan.
Oh, I'm stupid. Okay. So Duane Youd and Sandy Youd. Duane goes by Rhedd, so I will call him Rhedd for this story.
Okay.
Um, so Duane, also known as Rhedd, and his wife Sandy had been married since August 16th, 2014.
Okay.
They had they each had children from other marriages, but the only one still at home at their house full time was Sandy's 24-year-old son,
Hmm.
Colin, I think his name is. Um, so as we all know, marriages get rocky, especially when you have complications of, you know, mixed families and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but no one expected this one to take the turn that it did. Um, so fast forward, they were married in 2014, okay?
Mm-hmm.
August 12th, 2018, Rhedd and Sandy were having one of those days. They
Mm-hmm.
fought about anything and everything, right? They
Right.
started arguing. Rhedd started drinking early that morning, and it just kept escalating and getting worse. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Afternoon came around and they were still in the thick of it. So Rhedd suggested that they go on a drive up American Fork Canyon to Cascade Springs.
Okay.
For those who don't know what Cascade Spring is, or Springs, anyway, it's a little forest area that has like boardwalks and a little stream. It's really,
Mm-hmm.
really pretty. But
I
they
don't
were
think
gonna
I've
go
been
up
there.
there.
Have you been there?
Yeah, I have.
Oh.
It's it's cute. Gosh, this tree. Okay. So they're going on this drive up the canyon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and their fighting just kept going, like it just was never ending. Um, and so in this conversation, apparently Sandy told Rhedd that she was still seeing a man that she had an affair with the previous year and had
Oh no.
continued to see him since the affair started. Um, and so Rhedd, he stopped the truck as they were driving in the canyon. He stopped the truck and he told Sandy to get out. She gets out and he tries to drive away and leave her there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so as he's driving away, she jumps into the back of the truck
Hmm.
and he sees her do that. And so he continued driving down the windy canyon, right? So he's
Yeah.
weaving back and forth. He's slamming on his brakes and she's just being thrown around the bed of the
Yeah.
truck, right?
Right.
So he eventually stopped and tried to pull her out of the bed of the truck. Um, According to a probable cause statement, it says, quote, Rhedd continued to pull her waist. He pulled down her shorts and her underwear from her body and threw them in the vehicle. Then grabbing her again as he punched her in the lower back and the buttocks, trying to remove her. So got
Whoa.
violent, okay?
Yeah.
And like randomly just starts pulling off her clothes. I don't know. I think that's weird.
Right.
Um,
Like what, to humiliate her or
I
something?
don't
Or
I don't know if it was like intentionally that or if he's just trying to pull her. I don't know. I feel like that's a lot to pull her clothes off.
like all the way off, you know?
Yeah, not
But you don't
just
know if
like,
she was like kicking her legs, and they just happened to
yeah,
fly off, you know?
that's true.
You don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, still weird factor.
Right.
Um, so at this point, Sandy is nude from the waist down. And a few witnesses are watching this happen and they try to assist her to get her clothes back on and they broke up the fight, right? So
Yeah.
they kind of helped her out of that. The bystanders that had helped Sandy were able to flag down a police officer in the canyon, and that the police were able to take statements from Sandy as well as the witnesses.
Hmm.
So Rhedd was arrested and booked into the Utah County Jail at 9:20 that night. He made bail a few hours later. It wasn't until, let's see. Oh, sorry. This wasn't the first time that Rhedd had been in a domestic altercation with Sandy. He was arrested in April 2018, just a few months before this, for disorderly conduct, to which he pleaded guilty. And as a part of his probation, he was ordered to attend marriage and family counseling. So at 12:52 a.m., when he was released from jail, he asked the Payson police to accompany him to his house at the mouth of Payson Canyon to collect some personal things. So I think upon bail, he was ordered to keep distance from Sandy.
Okay.
So in order to go to the house where she is, he requested that he be escorted by police so that like they were there to witness and make sure nothing went wrong, whatever. Okay.
Right.
So he goes to his house and he grabs a few personal items. He's able to get his truck and then he leaves. Okay.
Right.
He goes to the Spanish Fork Airport. Okay.
Okay.
So Rhedd was a pilot who once flew for Pinnacle Airlines. He also flew rescue flights for Air Medical Resource Group, which is now called Guardian Flight. And he worked as the Van Con company pilot more recently. So he was getting like he's just a really great pilot, like amazing like statistics and like safety and everything, right? So as the Van Con corporate pilot, Rhedd had 24/7 access to the planes in the hangar.
Okay.
He was locked, or let's see. The planes are locked in a hangar that's only accessible by digital code. Around 2:30 a.m., Rhedd climbed into a two-engine Cessna 525 plane and took off. He flew over the Payson area and started his descent. He clipped the top of a neighbor's shed, hit a car parked in the street, and his aircraft landed right into his home that
Oh
he
my
shared with
gosh.
Sandy. Yeah. He flew his effing plane into the house.
Whoa.
Do you remember hearing about this?
No,
What? Oh my
I
gosh.
don't. No.
So he flies this plane into the house. Okay.
Or his
And
kids there?
Sandy and her 24-year-old son were in the house.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'm like out of breath because I'm like trying to get it out because I'm like, this is so intense.
Yeah.
Um, so Sandy and her 24-year-old son Colin were inside the home when the plane crashed. The two, or let's see, how he crashed was like because he clipped the, sorry, I'm trying to like explain it in my head. Because he clipped the top of the neighbor's shed and then hit the car, it kind of like he lost his acceleration a little bit doing that.
Okay.
So when he crashed, it was like it kind of like glided into the house and wasn't like a full force like into the house. Does that make
I
sense?
see.
Where it
Yeah.
like slid into the house.
Yeah.
Um, and he lost some of his momentum. But when he crashed into the house, it's like a two-story house, right, with a big two-car garage. And he hit the house and like the front of it was like engulfed in flames. But the only part that was really damaged was like the garage and like the front of the house is just on fire. Okay.
Wow.
Um,
And this is
so
like in the middle of the night.
yeah, this is 2:30 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So Sandy, when this happened, was asleep in her room on the main level when the plane crashed into the home, and she heard and felt an explosion. She tried to go out the front door, but the flames were way too big, so she ran out the side and through the garage and was able to make it to the street. But Sandy at this point didn't know where her son was, but she
Right.
was able to make it out. Colin, his bedroom was upstairs. And so, um, he was unsure how he even did this, but he was able to run out the front door and make it to the street, even
Whoa.
through all those flames and everything, and
Wow.
he was unharmed.
Wow.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Um, so as Sandy was looking at her home in the flames and everything, she saw the tail of the plane and immediately knew that it was Rhedd that crashed
Mm,
the plane.
yeah.
Being a
I
pilot's wife,
mean,
you can put the evidence together.
and after what just happened,
Yeah, after all that fighting,
and
you're
she
like,
knew that he
yeah.
just got bailed out. Like, I'm
Hmm.
sure she didn't think it was a coincidence.
Right. Like, but she did say to um the media that, let's see, where'd it go? No, I'll get there. Hold on. Okay. As police and emergency personnel arrive at the scene of the crash, they were unable to get to Rhedd. The cabin where the pilot would sit was engulfed in flames.
Mm.
Um, it's not the cabin.
Yeah, it is.
Is it the cabin where the
Yeah.
pilot is?
Hmm. The cabin is just where everybody sits.
It's just the inside of the plane.
Yeah.
The cockpit is,
Oh, yeah, you're right.
and the cabin is where people are. But it was a small plane, so it's
Yeah.
like,
Maybe it's
is
just
it all in
both.
the same?
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know anything about planes.
Me either.
Okay. So investigators believe immediately that Rhedd crashed into his home intentionally, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, because it would be too much of a coincidence if he's like, "Oh shoot, I crashed," and it's like right onto his house.
Yeah,
Like
and after a domestic incident,
incident, right? Yeah. So, Leon Van Sickle, who owns VanCon, that Rhedd worked at as a pilot, he said, quote, "He's the manager of the plane. He had full access to it. It all boils down to trust. I don't know what we would have done different. He flies with our lives at stake, and we thoroughly trusted him beyond measure. He took great care of us, and he never took chances. Everything was by the book." He then said, quote, "I couldn't believe it. It's unbelievable. The guy was just golden. He was rock solid. You just can't even fathom this. It's just so tragic."
Yeah.
So, like, the people he worked with every single day would have never expected him to do
That's
this.
so scary
Yeah.
that really anybody has it in them.
Everyone has the capacity to do that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just what makes them lose it, lose
Right.
control of their
Yeah.
decision making. Like,
To completely become unhinged,
yeah, I feel like everyone has that one thing that'll make him tick, and maybe it's like a bunch of stuff piled onto him that
Right.
made him lose his mind because
Well, you
from,
said that he was drinking that day too, right?
yeah, he was drinking
So,
and he was fighting with his wife, and like she told him that he was she was still cheating on him, and
right.
like, that's a
Yeah.
heartbreak can make you go unhinged
Hmm.
pretty quick.
Ugh,
um
that's just so sad.
I know all of it is like, well, you're a bad guy because you go and you fly a freaking plane into your house.
Yeah, like bad things happen to you for sure.
How you react
But
to it.
yes,
Yeah.
that's what matters.
Yeah. So, Van Sickle, who surveyed, okay, so Van Sickle's the owner of the company, right?
Right.
He surveyed the wreckage and agreed that it was intentional. He pointed out the Rhedd had to fly under power lines to avoid other houses, or sorry, he had to fly under power lines and avoid other houses to actually hit his house.
To get
So
the
it
target.
so it took
Yeah.
skill to make that happen.
Imagine being the neighbors being like, a plane just flew over our house and like,
Right.
and depending on his skill
Yeah.
would depend on if, like if it was our house
Like,
or,
the shed he
that's so
clipped,
scary.
he could have,
How
like,
reckless, you know?
yeah, if he didn't like do the right moves or the right whatever. I don't even know what the words I'm looking for, but if he was
Swoopty
just,
doos.
yeah, if he was just off by a little bit, he could have landed right into someone else's house. Like,
Oh
it's
my
just so
gosh.
scary. It's scary that like there are these pilots that have 24/7 access to planes.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of wonder though if like he really was just like looking for some peace in his mind and
Mm.
like people like Josh, he likes to go and drive when he needs to clear his head or
Mm.
well, he used to. He doesn't do that anymore because he's always driving. But
But yeah, like go like blow some steam, like
yeah,
go on a walk, go on a drive.
yeah. So that could have been his way to blow off some steam and just relax. And then just like his mind is
Had a
just
dark
like
thought.
had a, yeah, intrusive thought and was like, well, might as well. Like,
Mm.
I could only imagine the thoughts he was thinking, like, well, she cheated on me and like what do I have to live for? Like she shouldn't get to live because she did this.
Mhm.
She's the one who ruined this, but I also don't want to be without her. So let's just go together.
Right.
Like you can imagine
Like those
in
thoughts can spiral in so many ways, you
oh,
know?
yeah, and if you're in this plane, like
Yeah.
it's gonna be disastrous, like
Yeah. Oh, so scary.
yeah. So, Sandy said that she couldn't believe it. She would
Hmm.
have never thought Rhedd would do this and said she will never understand it. She holds tight to the version of Rhedd she always knew. She said, quote, I just want people to know what a fantastic guy Rhedd was. She also told Deseret News, quote, I don't know what was in his head. I don't understand why, and I never will. Um, and then also said, quote, I love him, I miss him, and I can't believe he's not here. Even a man that freaking flew a plane right at you. And she's
Mhm.
like, he's a really good guy.
I wonder if she has some guilt though, you know?
Oh, I bet. I bet she knew that she caused him to spiral.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
It's
know.
such a tricky spot because it's like it's not her fault, you
It's not
know?
her fault, but like also I mean none of us know the ins and outs of their
Yeah.
relationship. I
Yeah.
mean that's completely impossible for us to know.
Exactly.
But where he had like a domestic violence issue just a couple
Hmm.
months before, it kind of seemed
Right.
like they had an unhealthy relationship. Like maybe
Right.
they just fought a lot, whatever. They didn't communicate with each other very well and it could
Or
get
just weren't
physical.
compatible, you know? They just weren't
Some people
compatible and
just
they
aren't.
just, but they also didn't end it when they probably should have.
And that's the thing is like
So,
I think people need to know when to call it. It's like
yeah.
you you work hard and you try. It's just not working still. They went to counseling because it was required by his parole,
Right.
and still it wasn't working. And she's
Hmm.
like, she had an affair. So it's like, why would you even go to that point? Like, why
Yeah.
not break it off
Yeah.
before the affair even happens?
Right.
The second you're like, hey, I would rather sleep with you than someone else.
Hmm.
So that's when you
Hmm.
call it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Because, yeah, I know what you mean.
I
And it's
have,
just hard because it's like,
yeah,
it's not, we're not trying to victim blame. It's just
no.
like, it just, I wish people would, like you said, just know when to call it, you know?
Yeah, well, and there's like people that say, I mean, there's all these things that could have been done differently, like
Hmm.
like an
In hindsight.
intervention of something, or that you could have said to Rhedd, like, hey, maybe, you just take a break from each other or something. Like all his coworkers were even saying, like, we knew he was having trouble in his relationship. We just didn't realize it was where it was. And
Hmm.
so like they were like, if we had the opportunity to help him more, we would have.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just hindsight is 2020, you're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, they should have done this and they should have done that.
Mhm.
It's like, well, that's not what
Or like, if
happened.
I would have known, then this, you know, it's
Yeah,
like, I mean,
but
you can't rewrite it. So it happened.
I know, and so you can always say like they need to do this better, that better, but it's like at this point you can't change
Mm,
it. So
right.
anyway, but I don't know. It's like you want to say poor guy, but it's like he literally just assaulted his wife
Mm-hmm.
earlier that day.
Yeah.
And then she also
And
is
then
like having
attempted
an
to murder
affair.
her. Yeah.
And then he attempted to murder her. And it's like, you people. Um,
Oh boy.
so Rhedd had two children from his first marriage, and when they arrived to the scene, they told reporters that their father was a very loving and hardworking man. He owned his own business, like tinting windows
Mm.
and stuff for cars, and his daughter Jocelyn said, quote, he's not this person being portrayed. I feel very, very, very blessed to call him my father. And then Parker, his 17-year-old son, believes he was the last person to see him alive. When his dad came to his house, like Parker's house, I think, where he was with his mom,
Yeah.
um, to pick up some things, he said, quote, I love you. Good luck. I'll see you tomorrow. And that's the last thing his dad said to him, which
That's
makes
so
me feel
sad.
like he made a last second spontaneous decision.
Like an impulse.
Yeah. Unless he didn't want to give away to his kid that like they wouldn't see each other. But otherwise you think he'd just say, okay, love you, bye. Not
Right.
I'll see you tomorrow. Cause I think that leaves an open-ended.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have added that detail if he knew he was gonna do that.
Right.
I really think it was an impulse thing.
It sounds like it to me.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, so um let's see, where are my notes? Okay, sorry. I
You're
think
good.
that was the last thing. I was just gonna say that like the pain of losing a father in such a tragic way, I can't even imagine like how hard that would be. And also to
Mm-hmm.
have like this story told about this man that you know to be a good guy. And all
Mm-hmm.
these people see the story that's like coming out of the news of like him being abusive and him freaking flying a plane to his house. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But I do feel like the people you surround yourself with can definitely influence your,
Just you.
just influence you, like,
Yeah.
in a good or a bad way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
your tendencies to react a certain way could change, your demeanor can change. It just,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
it can happen and it happens a lot. So it's just a really sad story that two people that probably weren't the best for each other that it ended
Mm-hmm.
up this way, but you can like I hate like Facebook stalking, but you can tell like I mean you could see in like pictures of them, Sandy and Rhedd, they were like on vacation to Cabo and they were happy and they were like
Mm-hmm.
having fun and enjoying each other. But it's like you can't like it just goes to show like when you see stuff on social media, it's like, oh my gosh, they were so happy. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much behind the scenes. Literally
Yeah.
no one can say or like have any assumptions of like how you're
Yeah.
doing on social media. So like,
Well, because literally those photos you see are literally a millisecond of
yeah.
someone's life. A
Yep.
millisecond, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or even a video is what, 15 seconds of someone's life?
Yeah.
Like they can make it look however they want to make it look.
Yeah. And they could have been having fun on vacation, but there's so much more to their lives that are just
And they're not going to show the bad stuff.
no one's gonna show their fights. No
No.
one's gonna show their
Well, I hadn't even heard about this one. Jeez.
yeah, well, it like within 2 days of each other, this story happened, and
Mm-hmm.
another story in another state happened where a guy flew a plane into his house.
Really?
Like, yeah, I
What are the
can't remember
odds?
where it was, but it was within 2 days of each other in America that a pilot flew his plane into his own house.
That's
I
nuts.
know, you're like, what are the chances that two guys, and maybe he got the idea from this guy or
Right.
something, but it's insane.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
And so scary. Like, I mean, I think it's just scary when you hear the stories of like, you would never think like they're the sweetest person, just stellar guy, like you never, and then they do something like that. It's like that's terrifying because I mean, yes, it was probably just an impulse, but it's like,
Yeah.
what impulses are people capable of, you know?
Right. And something just makes them tick and then they lose
Yeah,
it. And like, in what way are they going to lose it? And who are they going to hurt and why? And like,
right.
it's crazy.
It just goes to show it can be anyone,
It can be anyone and out of
anyone,
nowhere.
anyone from anywhere, from the ground, from the sky, from
You just
anywhere.
like, and it's fun. It's crazy to think about all the people that like they accidentally kill someone. Like, literally, it's an accident.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, that was fun. And then they're like, all of a sudden they're
Right.
freaking serial
Like
killer.
like Jeffrey Dahmer. Because
Yeah.
wasn't his first two kills accidental?
I think is at
Yeah.
least his first one, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, but yeah, good point. Where it's like, what if they have this urge or this impulse or like whatever, and like they just do it, and then like, hmm, well, on to the next, you know?
Yeah. It's just crazy. We can never understand.
No,
I
that's
hope I
nuts.
I hope I never understand.
Yeah.
You know. Well, it's so crazy.
Well,
Freaking people.
man, good story though. I mean, good research. Sad story.
Sad story.
Sad
Aren't they
story.
all?
Yeah. Are you ready for my story?
Yes, please.
Well, I hope mine isn't too short because I feel like my last couple were like 15 minutes, if that.
Really?
And I'm like, what the hell? And so this time I really tried. I really tried, you guys, to like make it a little longer just so you guys can hear my voice a little more. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, like we're sick of hearing me.
No, that's not it.
I am.
Okay, well, here we go. So
Okay.
this story is about Ogden's most famous ghost. Do you want to guess what it
Ogden?
is? Do you know what it
Wow,
is?
we have a pattern. We do a lot of Ogden stories.
We really do.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
There's probably a reason why, though,
Oh,
because I think it's the worst place. But anyway,
but no, I have not heard of their biggest ghost or whatever
the
you
most
said.
famous,
Yeah,
most famous.
their
So
largest ghost
their biggest one. It's the size of
is so
Ogden.
tall. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
not really though. Okay, so this is about the Legend of Flo.
Hello.
Have you heard of this one?
No.
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
think when I think flow, I think of either progressive commercials
yeah,
or I think of Aunt Flo that
right.
visits
So
women every month.
yes, when I posted, because I every episode or every story that I do, I post on the Utah Haunted History page.
Yeah.
I just say, hey, what do you guys know about this? And a lot of the comments are like, do you mean Aunt Flo or do you mean the one that's trying to sell you insurance? So if you're also
That's
thinking that,
funny.
everybody else is too.
That's so funny. I'm like, I'm original in my joke.
No, it's everybody else is thinking the same thing.
That's
But
funny. Okay.
so this story is from another haunted cemetery,
Okay.
from the Ogden City Cemetery, located on 1875 Monroe Boulevard. And what makes this cemetery similar to the Salt Lake City Cemetery is that there is an old urban legend that has been around for decades, and that's the Legend of Flo. So, who is Flo? Her name is Florence Louise Grange, and people who knew her best called her Louise, not even Florence or Flo, but that's
Okay.
besides the point.
Also, Florence is an uncommon name for a woman.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you? I would think a male name,
Hmm.
Florence.
I guess I haven't really known anybody with that name, so I don't know.
Huh.
I don't
Hmm.
know.
Okay.
I think when I first heard the name Florence, though, it was from this story. So I think I've always associated it as a female name.
Oh, really? Okay,
But
maybe it's
I think I've
okay.
I think I've also heard the name Florence for a boy though. I've heard it, but I haven't known anybody.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess
I
it
don't
goes
know.
either way. It's like one of those that's like,
Like Sam.
yeah, yeah.
So she was born on November 24th of 1903, which is almost 100 years ago. No, it was over 100 years ago. 1903.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. I was like, oh, it's like 2022. I was thinking 20. Anyway, 2002.
2002.
2002. Oh, stupid. Oh my gosh. Oh,
You and
okay.
numbers on this podcast is just hilarious.
I suck at numbers.
Like when you guessed how many days are in a year.
Yeah. How many years are in a day? I mean, how many days
That
are in a year? All right.
was
So
funny.
she grew up in an LDS home, and her parents were Dodie and Ralph Grange.
Dodie or Dottie?
Dottie, maybe. Dottie.
Dottie.
Dottie. Okay. I've never known that name either. So, but all right.
Hmm.
So let me restart that sentence
I'm
so I can
sorry.
cut all that out.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So she grew up in an LDS home, and her parents were Dottie and Ralph Grange. Are you sure it's Dottie?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Because I'm now thinking, I think I've actually said this name out loud before, but it was when I worked urgent care. And you know, when you like when I would like go out the door and be like, so and so, and they would, like you say
Yeah.
the patient's name. I think I said Dodie before. I think I've always thought it was Dodie. So now I'm like, I'm an idiot. It's like one of those times where you're like, huh, I was wrong. And nobody corrected me. Okay. Anyway, so
That's
Dottie and Ralph
Dottie.
Grange. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So Florence was the second oldest child in her family. People who knew her best, oh yeah, I already said that. People who knew her best always called her Florence or called her Louise. But
Louise.
in my story, I'm just gonna call her Florence or Flo, just so people aren't confused because
Because it's a
every
story about Flo.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
okay.
Legend of Flo. Okay,
Yeah.
so but anyway, but I also don't want to be disrespectful to her because she wasn't called that. So just know she was called Louise. So if you're like ghost hunting, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. If you're ghost hunting and you're trying to speak with her, I would almost try to use the name Louise instead of Florence.
Okay.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that makes sense if that's what she is known
That
by.
right, and that's what her family knows her by. So
Okay.
anyway, so she was a student at Ogden High School. And from what we know about her is that she was very well liked and was very social. She's one of the popular girls.
Hmm.
When she was around 13, she joined the volleyball team and she was really good at it. So much so that she was even named in the newspaper. I think that they like won a game or something, but she's
Hmm.
one of the players that was named as being part of the team to help with the win.
Yeah.
So that's how we know she was on the team.
Yeah.
In 1918, she was around 15 years old. And at that time, the world was going through the Spanish flu pandemic, where at least 40 million people died worldwide.
Wow.
Almost 700,000 people died from it in the US. And not so fun fact is that Utah was the third hardest hit state. And apparently, it was so bad that by the end of November in 1918, the largest hospitals in Utah at the time were at max capacity. And they resorted to using LDS buildings to, like, for emergency care purposes, like
Wow.
emergency care centers,
Wow, you don't really hear too much about that
right? Like,
pandemic.
yeah. Um, I even read that it was so bad that people had to have like basically a doctor's note allowing them to come into the city. So it's kind of like what
Wow.
COVID went through, where
Kind
you had to have like the vaccine and stuff.
yeah.
You had to have a note saying that you were cleared to be able to travel, like into the city or out of the city.
Oh yeah. I mean, kind of like
Crazy.
how they use the vaccination cards to
Hmm.
travel and stuff. That's crazy.
Yeah. From September 1918 to June of 1919, so like from September until the next June, there were over 2,300 deaths in Utah that were all flu related.
Wow.
What was interesting about this strain of flu is that it was targeting young, healthy people. So during this, specifically in the middle of December of 1918, something happened to Florence. According to her death certificate, she was ill for about 10 days before she passed away, and she died at the age of 15.
No, sad.
Um, her family, like if you look on the like ancestry I can't remember which one I have. It's not ancestry.com, but like if you look at her death certificate and like look at the records
Mm,
that her family has put in, they say that she died of the flu. But technically, the death certificate just says that she was ill for 10 days before she succumbed to her illness. So
okay.
this is kind of where the legend has been twisted because like technically it doesn't say she died of the flu. So people are like, how did she die?
Yeah.
So we'll get there in a second. But she died at the age of 15. They held her funeral in the front room of her home, which was actually really common back then that they would have the funeral in the home of the person who had
Oh,
died.
I'm glad we don't do that anymore.
I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings about it because like I guess I wouldn't want my funeral to be here at my house, but I don't really necessarily I don't I think it'd be nice to have it not in a funeral home.
Oh, I hate funeral homes. I do
Me
not want an
too.
open casket.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that either. But like I think it'd be nice to have a funeral be like somewhere where you love to be? Like
Yeah.
why have it at a funeral home? It's like I don't even like this place, you know.
Yeah, like
So
I want my funeral to be at Disneyland.
or at the
Just kidding.
park,
Yeah,
or I don't know, like at a campground somewhere. I don't know, just something different where it's like,
not a funeral home.
right.
Well, I think it's because funeral homes have that weird stale smell and like
Yeah.
it just feels heavy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Heavy's a good word.
Like it's a
Where it's like
very like
very emotional place.
yeah, and maybe it's because like I'm uncomfortable with emotions. But it's like
Like
this
there's
is
too much of it here.
yeah, this is it's like suffocating the amount of
Yeah.
emotions in that room. Even if it's on me that's super emotional,
Mhm.
it's like just the emotion in the room is just oh, I can't breathe,
Right,
like
yeah,
it's a lot. So
it
man,
is.
if you get me talking about funerals, it's gonna be quite the conversation, so I'll stop here.
Yeah.
But
But I think that after this story, now that we're talking about it, I think I've now decided I don't want to have my funeral in a funeral home.
it's recorded,
Yeah,
so
I
if
think,
anyone fights me,
yeah,
I'll
put it
tell.
in bold lettering, underlined. I don't want that.
Okay,
Not at my house either. So I don't
you
know.
can
You
have
guys
your
think,
funeral at my house.
okay. Yeah. Will you host my funeral? All right. Well, anyway.
That's that's a lot to ask, but I will do it.
Cool. Great. I'm glad that we got this figured out.
Yeah.
All right. So Florence, let's talk about her. So
Yeah.
her
Her
she's
funeral
more
happened.
yeah, she's more important than us right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Her headstone reads daughter Florence Louise Grange, born November 24th, 1903, and died December 29th of 1918. Gone but not forgotten.
Hmm.
And now she's surrounded by her parents, her grandparents, and at least one of her siblings. Um, Visitors of the cemetery and storytellers of the urban legend have given, oh, I've kind of already said this, but have given Louise the nickname of Flo. And she was never called Flo, like ever, but I think people just made it short for Florence. It
Mm.
just kind of like gradually became the Legend of Flo instead of the Legend of Florence or
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah.
anyway, um, I guess what I'm trying to say is that there is definitely a historic background that does not support the legend. So
Okay.
this is
Yeah.
one of those things where like people have really just taken it and ran with it, and who knows, because like there are
Yeah.
a lot of crazy things that have happened at this place, and people say they have seen Flo, but it's like I don't know, the background, like the legend just is crazy.
So
Sorry.
the events may not be in invalid, but the name of the legend might need to be different.
Yeah, that or just like I'll get there in a second. So
Okay.
there are at least three different versions of what happened to Florence or Flo. One version is that one day, well, I'll say one day, sorry. one version, and the most probable one, is that she came down with the flu and passed away from her illness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another version is that she died while choking on a piece of candy. I don't know why that is one of them. I could not find why that's one or anything, but that's one.
Okay.
Um, Another version of the legend is that one day she was waiting for her friend to pick her up, or her boyfriend or whoever it was to pick her up, and she was sitting on the curb. And as they were coming up to pick her up, I guess they didn't see her sitting there, and they somehow like ran her over, and she died by being hit by the car. So
Hmm.
yeah, we think that she really probably just passed away from her illness. Um,
I mean, I
I
feel like
will,
they'd say on the death certificate, don't you think, if it was like a accident or something?
yeah, you would think so, probably, or like hit by vehicle
Yeah.
or something. On the death certificate, you know how it says she died after 10 days after 10 days of her illness or whatever it
Yeah.
said. Somebody pointed out that maybe she was hit by a car and didn't die immediately, but like fell into a coma or something and then passed away 10 days later, or passed
Mm.
away from her injuries 10 days later.
Okay. So it wasn't that she actually had the flu.
Yeah, it
It
was just
was,
like timing of the flu, but she didn't really die from the flu. Anyway, okay. Mm, okay, yeah, okay, here. Okay. So many have claimed to see, many have claimed to have seen Flo and say that she is most often seen around 3 a.m. And I have a picture I'm going to send you of Flo, actually.
okay.
It's going to come through Facebook, so hold on. Okay.
Oh, look at she likes the big bow on her ear.
Yeah, that's what I
Was,
thought too.
was that a thing?
It must have been.
Hmm.
Uh, Anyway, so that's what she looks like, and I'll definitely post that on Instagram.
Yeah.
Uh, Typically, she is seen wearing a long, flowy blue dress. And a lot like the emo's grave in the Salt Lake City cemetery,
Mm-hmm.
there's something that you'll need to do before she appears.
Okay.
They say that if you park near her grave, which I suppose is kind of near the like the road, so you can park near it, and then you honk your horn and flash your headlights 3 times, she'll appear in front of you and also begin walking towards your passenger side door
Hmm.
as if to get in.
Yeah.
Some people who have tried this say that when they've done it, a green mist will always show up, even if Flo doesn't. So
Interesting.
that's one interesting thing about Flo, is that she will also appear as a green mist.
Hmm.
Um, and like I said before, she will appear and then she'll reach for the door handle before she vanishes.
That'd be
Um,
so scary to see. I'm just like
right?
envisioning it in my head and I'm like, I would drive
Yeah,
away so fast.
it'd be so scary. The house that she lived in and where her funeral was, is actually also haunted, and they believe
Really?
that she haunts that house. I
Hmm.
found an interview done by Fox 13. It's on YouTube, but I can definitely post the link to that. Um, the the journalist, yeah, guy,
And yeah.
anchor, whoever it was, like doing the interview and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, he was actually interviewing Ogden Paranormal, which is like a paranormal investigation team.
Yeah.
And then he went over to where her house was, because he was going to post what address she used to live at,
Mm-hmm.
and just knock on the door and say, hey, like we're just going to be using this address in our article. Are you okay with that? And when the person who answered the door, his name's Chester, he said, oh, yeah, that's totally fine. And also, I have a story for you. So that's how we got this story.
Okay.
Um, so the owners say that they've been experiencing paranormal activity since they bought the house back in the 90s. Like I said, the owner's name is Chester, and he said that back when they bought the house, his wife was home alone one night, and suddenly the TV turned on by itself. So she got up and she turned it off.
Mm-hmm.
So then she went back to bed. And then in the middle of the night, it turned on again. So she gets up, turns it off. And then it happened for the third time. And that's when she's like, okay, what the hell? So she gets up and she looks around the room and she, I guess, assumed, I mean, she didn't say this, but I guess she assumes it's paranormal and says, well, you guys have yourself a good night. I'm going to bed. And then turns off the TV. And
That's
he says
funny.
that ever since she acknowledged them and said, you guys have yourself a good time, I'm going to bed, never again did that happen.
Huh.
And one thing that the journalist or whoever it was that the Fox 13 guy, he said that he pointed out that Flo, she likes to do things in threes, So it's interesting that she, if it was her, turned the TV on 3 times. And also with the legend, you have to turn your headlights on 3 times before she'll appear.
Yeah.
So that's just really interesting.
Huh.
Um,
I know there's a symbolism to the three.
like numerology.
Yeah, like it's like the trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
like but
There's
you
a
always
lot of significance with the number 3,
yeah, but
for
you always
sure.
wonder like well, I do because I have existential crisis all the time. But like what like are we can we grasp the significance of it? Is it as simple as we think it is?
Right.
Like does it symbolize the trilogy? Does it symbolize well, like what is it? Is it like more
Yeah.
complex than what we think it is, or is it
Right.
just as simple as a communication
Man,
like way to communicate?
that's a very deep thought because it's also like it makes you then think like numbers really aren't real. Like we made up
We
numbers
made up numbers,
and we made up math. So
which is
it's like
stupid because I failed and we made it all up. But you think about that in a grander scheme, because I was thinking about this the other day, and you can take this out. But like when it comes to like having a higher power and
hmm
all the rules that come with it, with certain religions and organized whatever,
yeah,
you think about it and you're like, is it really as complex as they're making it? Or
right.
is it really just as simple as there is a higher power?
hmm
Or is there just like we can't comprehend the complexity or we
Right.
can't comprehend the simplicity of
Yeah,
the afterlife? You know what I mean? So
right.
like
I hope that's what it is. I hope I can't comprehend how simple it is.
I know
That
like
would be really nice.
crossing my fingers that
I
it's
hope I'm
just like
I hope I'm just too genius for the
yeah,
afterlife.
like I'm way too smart for this place.
That would be heaven.
Yeah, that'd be nice. When we are too smart for something. But yeah, it's just
Yeah.
super crazy to think about because it's like I feel like organized religion overcomplicates
Yeah.
a lot.
Oh yeah.
But then what if it's that on top of more that we don't know? And it's just like shit.
Like
Like
actually that is the rules and there's a backside. So turn the page over.
yeah, like you only got half of them. So it's like either way, it's hell you go. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
you know,
Yep.
it's just
I know what you mean.
sorry. I always have these stupid thoughts that just come out of my mouth at stupid times. Okay, go ahead.
No, that was actually a very complex thought and it's gonna keep me up at night. So thanks for that.
You're welcome because it keeps me up at night multiple times a week.
You're like, is it too simple or is it too complex?
What if it's nothing? And how do I feel about that?
Right. Right. Oh man. Okay, well, um pretty much the rest of my story is just like experiences that I found over the interwebs.
Okay, let's hear it.
So I told you about the legend and what happens and
Mm-hmm.
how you got to make it happen and stuff. Now, here's what's happened to other people. Okay.
Okay.
Um, let's start with Facebook. So I found these comments and these stories on Facebook, mostly through the post that I posted about you know, the story. So, and then people commented and said, "This is what I know." So this is where it came from.
Okay.
All right, so this one's from Brittany A, and she said, I've seen Flo about 18 times over the years. I
18
stopped.
times.
I know. I read that like 3 times. I'm like, 18? Like, that's a lot of
Like I can't
times.
get even one ghost.
Yeah, I know. So it's like, it makes you wonder, like, is she a medium or something?
I feel like there are people that I always say this every single
Yeah.
time. Never mind.
People that just can,
They
I
just draw it.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's okay. So I've seen Flo about 18 times over the years. I stopped going because teens and hecklers started harassing us and have ruined the experience.
Yeah.
I tried to debunk the anomaly and haven't been able to do so. It's a bit confusing because there is a secret. Oh, sorry, a secret. There's a street directly vertical across from the cemetery where, when cars come up, the lights go straight into your view, sometimes looking like there's something there. But Flo, or whatever residual she is very different in color and appearance. I've always felt calm and peaceful when witnessing her. I will say I have experienced darker things in that cemetery and have had nights where she didn't show up. I've also seen her in different colors, which is really cool. This is just my experience with living in Salt Lake for 16 years. So I don't think she's a Utah native. It doesn't sound
Oh,
like, but who
okay.
knows? She says, there's a lot of speculation that it's fake or it's car lights, but I can swear on my life, once you see her, you'll know. The cemetery has a dark energy to it too. One night in particular, me and my friend were walking through the cemetery doing a ghost hunt. He was a little ahead of me. I was stopping here and there to take pictures and do EVPs. I went to catch up to him, but he seemed to be walking faster or almost running further from me. I yelled out to him to slow down, and he wasn't. I was yelling loud enough for him to hear me, but he just kept going. Then I saw his shadow start to move very strangely. It was kind of changing shape and then quickly darted behind a tree. I got a sickening feeling in my gut and I stopped in my tracks. I watched the tree for a moment and was scanning for his silhouette or any movement at all. I wanted to find him, but also had a strong urge to leave. I turned around and went back to the car. And when I got back, my friend was there waiting for me. He said he only walked a little further to check out a grave, and in the next minute, he couldn't find me. He said he got back to the car and had a bad feeling and called my phone several times and even called out for me. We both never once heard each other, and I had no missed calls, but his phone showed outgoing calls to me. The calls never went through, and we had perfect reception. To this day, I don't know what I was following. We tried to timestamp everything, and none of it made any sense. That night seemed to be darker than other nights, too. The vibe was off, it was heavier than normal, and it really messed with us. Isn't that a crazy experience?
That is wild
Right,
and terrifying.
right.
She was like having, it's like almost like she was in another bubble of reality,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Oh, that'd be so scary.
Ugh, it's stressing
So
me out.
scary. So that was the only Facebook story that I took, but these are some other stories that I got from the comment section of the Dead History site. If you guys don't know, there's a site called thedeadhistory.com. It's like a blog site with like a bunch of different I don't know if there's other states, but that's where I get a lot of my Utah haunted history or haunted info.
Okay.
So there's a story about the Legend of Flo on there, and then there's a whole comment section. So this is where I got these stories. This one's from L, and it's from 5 years ago. It says, my friends and I to start. Oh my gosh, my friends and I decided to try this out one night after an Ogden High School football game. We saw her not once, but twice that night. Scariest thing that's ever happened to me. Still wondering why she comes out like that and others don't? Question mark. I'll never question spirits ever again.
So, and they did the car thing.
Yeah. Yep. That's why they're like, I don't know why she comes out like that and other ghosts don't. So
And
it's
no
like,
one's
huh,
seen her outside of that experience,
not that
outside
I've
of
seen.
doing that. Interesting.
Yeah. Not in my research, not that I've seen. It's all
It's
with the
like,
headlights.
who figured out that pattern?
Yeah. Unless they just did it one night and they're like, dude, that just happened to me. Let's try it again, you know? And then they figured out who it was.
Maybe it just like grabbed her attention the first time, and then now she's like, okay,
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't understand.
Here's another comment. It's from from 6 years ago. It says, I saw this with my cousin and some friends. We pulled up, turned the car off, and flashed the lights. She was green, wearing a dress, and came towards the car. We started freaking out, and the car wouldn't start. Don't know if that was the driver messing with us or what. At the front of the car, she disappeared, and then the car started. I looked behind, and then she was behind us, but disappeared again as soon as the car started. So it's like she was like appearing in different places around the car.
Hmm.
Um, oh, actually, I do have more comments from the history Utah Haunted History Facebook page. I just put it in a different section in my notes.
Oh.
Not bad. So this one's from IVS. She says, when I was younger, maybe the early 90s, we received answers on a Ouija board that told us to run now fast. And the cops came rolling in right after that. We saw green fog, and I saw the lady in black during that time. One of the most active cemeteries I have researched. It may have to do with the river that runs nearby. And that was IVS. So
Because
the lady in black, I could not find any information about who that could be. So if I totally missed that and you're listening to this, I'm so sorry. But then I started wondering if the lady in black was just Flo in black. Because remember how the other story said like she would change colors, like she would be in a different color
yeah,
sometimes? Maybe it's her. Maybe she does change colors depending on whatever's happening.
yeah.
Like they were using a Ouija board. So maybe she showed up in black, you know?
Or it was like the green mist was Flo, and then the black figure was something that they're communicating with the Ouija board. Because I
Maybe
think that just brings
all kinds of
all
who
kinds of
knows
stuff.
what.
Yeah.
The next one is from Ashley N. She says it was like 2008, maybe 2009, and we got to the top of the hill. I was a bit skeptical. Like it had to be something, right? Cars passing by, something that made it seem like you were just seeing her. My friends flashed her lights 3 times, but there she was. I have never been so scared in my life. A whitish silhouette was gliding across the road. We were freaking out, and we flashed the lights again, and she was even closer. We saw the exact same thing, and we drove down the road and looked around, and there was nothing around that would have caused that illusion. It was wild.
Like I want to try it.
I know, I do too. All right, 2 more stories.
Okay.
So this one's from Tyson M, and it says the statues move when you're not looking. They were facing another way, and now their face is looking at you. I might be seeing things, or I might be crazy, but honestly, it was scary, and we left. Years and years ago, or sorry, this was years and years ago, but honestly, one of my very first paranormal experiences.
I would freak the fuck out.
That would freak me out. The statues moving.
It's like scaring me. Not even like just imagining that freaks
Yeah.
me out.
Yeah, that's terrifying. That's scarier than dolls, I think. Statues moving.
Statues. Yeah, because it's made out of freaking cement.
Yeah, it's like a doll's out of rubber. Like, sure, that could move.
Yeah, that's a way easy to move.
Yeah.
Cement face is completely different.
Right. All right, last one. This is from David C. He says, I've heard it, meaning the legend, since I was a kid. I just recently went, and yes, I've seen something that I couldn't explain, and it was like a green mist in the middle of the road. It was pretty crazy. The end.
I
That's the
wonder if
Legend of Flo.
because I know a couple people from Ogden. I want to reach out and be like, "Hey, like, have you ever heard of this? Did you do anything?" Because I feel
Yeah.
like I can see that like teenagers and people have kind of ruined it. But don't
Yeah.
you think teenagers are the ones who like do those legendy things?
Yeah.
Like
Probably.
like the sequence of things or like going around a uh
Emo's grave.
emo's grave
I
backwards or whatever. Like
know.
only teenagers probably do those kinds of things.
Yeah. Right.
Grown-up ghost hunting.
Right.
involves a little bit more sophistication.
And equipment.
Yeah. I
But
don't know.
I was also just thinking, like, I wonder if, I mean, if it's all true, okay, if
Hmm.
all of it is true,
Hmm.
part of me wonders if, like, she enjoys it because it brings the teens, because she was so social and popular, like, when she was alive. And, like,
Well, and she was 15 when she died.
yeah. So, like, I wonder if, like, she does it because, I mean, maybe, like, maybe she knows that if she keeps doing stuff like that, it'll keep bringing the kids that are her age.
Yeah,
Like
that's
she might
true.
be having fun with it. Like it might just be one of those things.
That's her afterlife entertainment.
Yeah, could be.
I mean, we're not here to judge.
We're not here to judge. Who knows what we're going to be doing? Thank you, everybody, for listening to episode 33 of Haunting Cold.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks.
as always, remember to check out our Patreon. Uh, we have an On Deck at Dusk coming out in a couple days. It's going to be coming out on December 1st, and it's going to be my paranormal story that is wintry themed. So prepare yourselves for that.
Wintry. Okay.
Wintry themed. And I just also this episode I wanted to just kind of list out the stories that we've done so far.
Hmm.
The first On Deck at Dusk that we did was a paranormal story, and I did that one. And it's the possession of Anna Eklund. And then April did a month after that, she did the Lake Bodom murders.
Hmm.
And then I did the Borley Rectory after that. And then April did serial killer John Christie after that.
Yeah,
So
got
you
some
have,
good ones.
yeah, they're really good. So if you are like, man, I really like listening to these cute girls talking about things, then join our Patreon.
Did you see that face I made?
Did you see the face and voice I made? It's like when like your shoulders swallow your neck.
Yeah. Or it just makes more neck
Yeah. Yeah,
or
exactly.
chins.
Yep. Anyway, so if you want to hear those, that's on Patreon. This episode airs on November 27th, and episode 34 will come out on December 11th. Make sure you're following us on social media at Haunt and Cold Podcast. You'll find us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and you might even find us on YouTube a little bit because there's a couple videos on there. So check them out if you want to. Um,
No pressure.
yeah, exactly. Also, visit our website to submit your own personal paranormal or true crime stories, and you can also purchase merch there. So if you're like, wow, me and my friends love listening to this podcast, I'm going to buy everyone a beanie. Go for it. Do
Or
it.
keychain.
Or keychain or car
Or
charm
or
or
what else do we got? That's
I
it.
don't know. That's it. But just go check it out. And also, if you can't spend money, at least what you can do is just spread the word. Let your family and friends know you're listening to us.
Leave a
Have them listen.
review.
Leave a review.
Uh
Like and
share.
subscribe.
Share stuff.
Uh-huh.
Keep listening.
Keep listening. Yes, you have
Um,
to keep listening.
if you've made it this far and you've listened to all 33 episodes so far, congratulations.
You win a prize.
Yeah. Um, you will get a 34th episode.
Right. All right. Well, that's it. So,
I'm really glad
we-
that you wrote all that down because there's just no chance in hell we'd get
yeah,
there
dude.
without it.
I appreciate my outro notes also, which I've just like copied and pasted it for every single episode. I have up until episode 55, I think,
Wow.
mapped out. Yeah, so at least until then.
Wow, you're very on top of your things.
You know what I do sometimes? Not all the time. This is not an all the time thing, but sometimes I get this like hair up my butt that I'm like, hey, I'm gonna do something for future me. I'm gonna I'm gonna really help myself out somehow today. And
Future
so I
Katie's gonna love past Katie.
yeah, I do talk to myself like that sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be so happy with myself later. Like if I have anyone to please, it's me.
Oh gosh, what a life to live.
I know.
Like I'm just like, oh, future me is so pissed off right now
Yeah.
because I leave
Future me is
everything.
just gonna have to deal with it, okay?
Yeah, like, what's funny is when Josh and I were dating and we were in college, he had this like grant money on his student card,
Yeah.
and it was like a loan mixed with grant money on this
Mhm.
card, and we would always use it to go to McDonald's and get breakfast. And he was like,
Yes.
"Thanks, future me." And we get breakfast.
Swipe.
Yeah. So like all of his student debt is our McDonald's breakfast, basically.
Oh no.
It's so stupid, and we're still paying for it.
Oh. Oh no.
We haven't been in college for a decade.
Yeah. No, really though. Oh shoot.
So
Well,
don't do that. Do something nice for your future self.
yeah.
Not decades of freaking debt over McDonald's.
Oh, that's so funny. But
or
like,
or use your student loan money for education.
or like groceries. I feel like that would have been more excusable than
No.
breakfast. Because like at least groceries, you're trying to survive. You know, like you're doing all that you can.
If it makes you feel any better, it was like 99-cent sausage burritos, and we'd get one
Okay.
each. And I think we'd share a Coke. So it was like
Okay.
poor student
Okay. So you guys weren't like
breakfast.
splurging, like
No,
getting
we
the
weren't like
McGriddles and the
Big
iced
Macs and
coffees.
shit. No,
Yeah. Okay.
we're
Okay.
still living poor, but like stupid.
Stupid and poor.
And then the times we weren't doing that was dumpster diving night. It's fine.
That's so funny. It really is. Oh, maybe I'm the only one laughing, but
I know they're probably like, oh no, you have a sad life. Yeah.
but look, we've made it. Hey, look, Ma, we made it.
Look at all my stuff.
And we're still stupid.
And
We're,
in debt.
we're still stupid and poor.
Just more to show for it, really.
Right? Look what I did with all my stupidity.
Yeah. Look at this nice pillowcase I bought the other day. It was really soft.
On credit.
I mean,
Just kidding. Oh, well, anyway. Yeah, I think we're done with
I
this
think that's it.
episode.
Okay.
Wait,
All right. Oh,
hold on. Do we want to do our re-recording of the Anchor ad before we say sayonara?
sure.
Because we need a new one.
Yeah, but you didn't give me a script.
That's okay.
Oh,
Just follow my lead, okay?
unscripted is
Yeah.
the way we're going. Should we
So if
do
you
our
guys,
okay bye first?
yeah, but hold on. If you guys heard a new Anchor ad at the beginning of this, it happened right after this. So you're
If you
welcome.
didn't, we failed hard.
Yeah, but we'll try again next time.
Next time, yeah.
That's what we always say too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay,
Okay,
bye.
bye.